I'm Algenon Cash, and you're locked in. Today, I'm joined by a business and civic leader who spent years working behind the scenes to build a better Greensboro. He's the current president of the Greensboro Sports Foundation, and now he's stepping into the political arena as a candidate for Greensboro City Council. Please help me welcome Richard Beard. Richard, how are you, man? Thank you for locking in today.
Doing great. Thank you, Algenon. Thanks for having me on, and it's great to connect with you again.
It has been great to reconnect. You and I have known each other for many, many years. You were probably one of the first people that I met when I got into real estate investment banking 23 years ago. It's so fun to say you've been doing something for 23 years. That's a long time to be doing something. But yeah, I haven't seen and haven't talked to you in quite a while, but I've been keeping up with you and I see you've been busy all around Greensboro. I guess let's start there. For my audience, maybe just give them a little bit of backstory on who Richard Beard is.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm a native of Greensboro. Grew up, went through the Greensboro public school system before it was merged into Guilford County school system, but graduated from Page High School and went away for college for a year and a half, came back and finished at Greensboro College. So I'm pretty entrenched in Greensboro. Love Greensboro, left for 10 years, went to Roanoke, Virginia, and got into economic development, trying to recruit businesses and industry to the Roanoke Valley of Virginia, but always wanted to come back to Greensboro and was keeping tabs on Greensboro for those 10 years and had a dream job come my way, and that was to come back to Greensboro with the Greensboro Chamber in Economic Development. So from 96 to 99, I was selling Greensboro for new business and industry. And quite frankly, at a time that it was very difficult to recruit because we had short water supplies and we were losing 90,000 jobs in furniture, textiles, and tobacco. So it was a whole lot different than it is today. And but left the economic development world, did some site selection work on the private sector, and that led me into partnering with two gentlemen, Sam Simpson and Brett Schulman, to form Simpson, Schulman and Beard, and that's where we made our connection. Was when I was in commercial real estate. But 3 years ago, I was at a place in my life that I was certainly very fortunate to have a successful career in real estate, but my passion's always been Greensboro, and I wanted to do something very positive to kind of help move Greensboro forward. And at the time, I was working on the ACC headquarters move to Charlotte. We were trying to keep the ACC here, but I've been involved with the Greensboro Sports Foundation and Greensboro Sports and sports tourism for many, many years as a volunteer, but made a career decision to take over the Sports Foundation because there are only two things left in life that seem to keep politics out, and that's music and sports. So I decided to go the track of sports and sports tourism, which is a huge economic driver for not only Greensboro, but for the region. And so I'm back in economic development, and kind of the plan is not only to build up the sports foundation and to keep bringing great events to Greensboro and to the Piedmont Triad, but now's the time to get into city politics and see if we can kind of change our focus and our direction as we bring in 20,000 jobs over the next 5, 10, 15 years. So I'm excited about the possibilities for Greensboro and the Piedmont Triad, but now's the time for us to redirect leadership and make sure that we're prepared for this growth that's going to happen because of this economic development success, but to make sure that our kids are prepared to take advantage of these incredible opportunities.
No, I think that's a wonderful introduction. And yes, I recall when you and I met, you were with Simpson, Schulman, and Beard, and you all had that Rock Creek development project going on off of 85. You guys had a big, big vision for there, and it looks like reality caught up with your vision. So congratulations on being able to get that project completed and all the jobs and the impact, the economic development impact that you all did out on 85.
Yeah, I was just going to add, since 2006 when we took over Rock Creek, and of course we hit the recession in 2008, 9, 10. It was tough, but I'm very proud of the fact that just in our time with Rock Creek Center, which was already developed by the time we were able to get involved in it, we created over $1 billion worth of tax base and over 5,000 jobs. So it's been a huge impact to Guilford County, but especially East Guilford County and East Greensboro.
Well, let's stay there for a moment because I think you just hit on something really important. When you all did take the project over, it wasn't doing well, and you did have to have a lot of vision along with a lot of patience to be able to realize some of the abundance that you've been able to create. Talk a little bit about how that particular skill set translates into the role that you want to serve on the Greensboro City Council.
Well, I think first and foremost is patience, because patience and some drive and some tenacity and some plain old hard headedness. But we never gave up on Rock Creek, and we were very fortunate to have some very passive investors that gave us the runway to get through the recession. I mean, we had just in 2009, January of 2009, we took a delivery on the only spec building at the time in Guilford County. We had a vision of building spec development at a time that nobody was willing to invest. And we took delivery on that January of 2009, and it sat empty for 4 years. And but we stayed patient. Our investors stayed patient, and it comes to having a vision and sticking with your vision through thick and thin, and that's what I'm all about. I have a vision for Greensboro, and it's not going to happen overnight. And it's going to take some patience. It's going to take collaboration, no different than Rock Creek Center. We had to collaborate with bankers, with government, with investors, and we got through it. So that's what I'm all about. You have a vision and you've got to work towards it, but you've got to come together to make the vision come to reality.
Richard, you said that sports was one of the only areas that politics hasn't quite touched yet. I don't know, man. I think the NBA and perhaps maybe in the NFL might argue against that now. It looks like maybe even this year, sports has been infiltrated by politics for sure.
Well, even college sports. So let's say youth sports. We have a strong following when it comes to youth sports. But yeah, but it is where you and I can come together. We might have differences in life, but sitting around a sports game, we might rib each other for the team we pull for. But everybody's pretty much loving each other when they're in the stadium or in the arena.
No, it's a great social experience. You listed out a lot of things that you've done in Greensboro, whether it's economic development, some of the real estate projects you've worked on, all the community service that you've done over the many years that I've known you, and probably even before I even got a chance to meet you. What's so special about this particular moment? I'm absolutely sure people have asked you to run for council before. They probably asked you to run for Guilford County Commissioner before. What's special about this moment? What actually attracted you to make that decision or motivated you to make that decision this time around?
Well, clearly the successes that we've seen in economic development. I go back, what I've said earlier, when I was at the chamber from 1996 to 1999, we were losing jobs like crazy in furniture, textiles, and tobacco. We had 75 days of water left in Greensboro, and I had manufacturers calling that were interested in Greensboro because of our manufacturing labor base here. But I would have to ask them a question, what's your processed water requirements? And if it was over 100,000 gallons a day, I had to say, thanks for calling, but we can't accommodate. And that was concerning. And we all through this and through the years, we had a lot of young people, our college students in the triad, that were moving away because the opportunities weren't here. And then all the vision and the leadership that we had at the airport authority, or Jim Melvin and the Bryan Foundation taking the risk with establishing a mega site down in Liberty. And then, Toyota comes on board, and then Boom Supersonic comes on board, and then Jet Zero comes on board. And these are investments that have been made over a 30-year time period, and now they're paying off. And so we have, one thing that's held us back over the years is the argument about there are no opportunities. Well, now we have opportunities, and we need to prepare for it. So now's going to be critical to have the leadership to be thinking about 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road so we can prepare. And I think that we need a new voice because, we've got a lot of people that get into local politics that are very narrow minded, they're siloed, and what's in it for me today, or they're only thinking about the next week or the next month or the next year. And we've got to take care of a lot of issues that pertain to today, but we've got to really be looking out into the future. And in Greensboro, we've got a lot of catching up to do. We've got a lot of deferred maintenance in areas. We've got to make sure our downtown is vibrant and attractive to young people. I mean, I use a tagline, I've got a vision for Greensboro, and I'm focused on the future, and the future are our children. And now they have opportunities. So now's the time for us as leaders in the community to make them aware of that and make sure that we shape the opportunity and give them the resources to be able to capitalize on this.
Richard, outside of just economic development, which I know that's sort of a pet area for you because you've spent so much time in that space, what are maybe two or three other issues that Greensboro really needs to address over the next 4 years or so?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we need to watch our spending. I mean, we've over the last 5 years, I've made everyone aware that because people don't look at this, but over the last 4 years, our taxes, our budget has gone up $211 million just over a 5 year period.
Mm.
So where is that money gone? Over the last 5 years. Our budget's now $832 million. How are we spending that money? We got to be better stewards. I'm not a tax cut person, but I'm certainly a revenue neutral person with the upcoming increases in our tax assessments in Guilford County because I need to understand how we're spending $831 million. And then, public safety is a big part of it. I'm running on live, work, play. And, that's economic development. But, live is public safety and affordable, attainable housing. Work is workforce development now because we've done a great job on recruiting jobs. Now we have to prepare that workforce. And then play is a vibrant downtown, a clean and vibrant downtown, and making sure that our recreation areas are brought back up to speed. And then the other thing that it's been a concern of mine for years, but really being out in the community and hearing people, we're so polarized as a community and we need to come together. The only way we're going to take advantage of these opportunities is to come together as a community. And, there's still some work to be done on race relations and understanding each other and being able to sit at a table and collaborate and take our differences and bring them together where we can have a common ground to where we can work towards. And I don't see that in our community. We're not sitting down and having the honest conversation and everyone willing to work together to find common ground.
I talked to a lot of leaders, not only across North Carolina, but even across the country, people that I've met over the years. And I think the last piece of what you just shared, Richard, is something that's actually occurring in every community across North Carolina right now, where there's just really a lot of partisan divide and lack of unity amongst a lot of communities right now. How much of what we're seeing play out at a national level, some of the conflict happening within Congress or some of the tensions that are coming out of the White House, how much of that do you see being reflected in your race? How much of that are you seeing when you're out talking to people day to day?
Oh, I mean, it's so polarized, and it's the national noise that's filtered down locally. No question about that. I mean, I'm running unaffiliated in a nonpartisan race, and it's hard to run unaffiliated because just to find a consultant to help me with this campaign, because I've never run before, so I didn't know how to even start with this. Well, I went through two different organizations that because I wasn't a Democrat or a Republican, they wouldn't represent me. So I did find someone that would take an unaffiliated. But people look at me, they look at this face, and they say, well, he's a Republican, he's MAGA, and there's a strong feeling against the national politics that they're judging me, they're judging the book by the cover and not really taking the time to learn about me and who I really am, and that's been a real struggle, but that's it's certainly understandable. But once they engage in conversation, they find out that I'm really concerned and care about the entire community. And these opportunities that we have are available for everyone. And I just hope that we can change the conversation and that we can set aside the noise in DC, and I blame both parties. And that's why I became unaffiliated, because I got frustrated. I was a registered Republican, and they look at how I vote in primaries, but I'm tired of partisan politics, quite frankly, and I vote for the person that's best for the situations today. So I hope that people will take the time to research all the candidates and really see where they stand and where their heart is, not where the rhetoric is. I mean, it's just unfortunate, and I get it, but we're better than that right now. We've got opportunity. We've got to charge forward through it.
No, I loved everything you just said, and I wouldn't have never mistaken you for MAGA, Richard. Quite,
I just, it's that's just, but
but
that's fun.
my audience knows this about me, so this is not anything new. But I'm Republican, and a lot of people have followed me over the years. A lot of the things that I've written and speeches I've given and things like that. But I will absolutely tell you, I'm disgusted with what I'm seeing in Washington, D.C. right now, and whether that's at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue or back at the Capitol. And I think both these parties, quite frankly, have put us in a really dangerous position. I mean, we're on the verge here in the next few days of 47 million people not having food security because of partisanship and division and so forth. But we have to be careful as voters and people not to allow that division to get all the way into our state politics, into our communities. I don't think Republicans or Democrats have some kind of a monopoly on good ideas. When the police shows up, when you have a service call, you don't ask the police officer if he's Republican or Democrat. If you want your trash picked up on time, you don't ask if the garbage man is Republican or Democrat. When you want a new job in your city, when you want economic development, there's nothing partisan about creating jobs. And so I think we should have more of these nonpartisan races at the local level, whether it's city council or school board or county commissioners. There should be no partisan politics in our local affairs, especially in the communities where we have to actually live together. I have to see you at the grocery store, Richard, or I might sit in the same church with you. And so we have to be very careful about the way that we divide ourselves based on things that we see on television. And oftentimes the behavior of people that we don't even know. Most of the people that you're following in Washington, D.C., you've never even had a conversation with them. But you can pick up the phone and you can call Richard and you can meet him in your community for coffee. And I think that's why we've got to make sure that we stay united, at the local level. I have an article, Richard, in the Carolina Journal that talks about some of these off-year elections that are going on this year, like in Greensboro and Salisbury and some other places around the state. Typically, people only show up every 4 years. They actually think we only have an election every 4 years. So some people listening to this right now might be shocked to find out that we have an election coming up this Tuesday in Greensboro. How are you battling that? How are you really getting your message out to make sure you can get the turnout you need to actually win that seat?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, the primary, we had 10.5% show up for the primary out of 210,000 eligible voters, only 20,000 showed up. That's disturbing. But now when it comes to a primary, I mean, there's a lot of confusion about primaries because we've got another primary coming up in March for our state election. So is it March? Is it May? Is it June? Is it October? So we'll give that a pass. But every first Tuesday in November is always election day, every year. So hopefully they'll understand that. But people really don't pay attention. They don't think that for whatever reason, it's not going to matter, or for some reason they don't show up and vote. And so it's very hard to kind of get that message. We're spending a tremendous amount of money, quite frankly, and I don't like campaign finance because I'm very philanthropic. I'd rather that money go to learn to swim, to teach second graders how to swim, which I've been very involved in. But it is what it is. But we're trying to push out the message of how important local elections are. And you brought it up talking about police and trash and everything. I mean, it doesn't take a Democrat and a Republican to figure out how to fill a pothole. Robbie Perkins, he probably said that when he interviewed with you. Fix the pothole. And people lose sight of that. But local politics touches you every day. But yet only 10.5% will show up for a primary, or the current city council is sitting today 16% elected that city council that we have today. So are we going to beat 16%? I hope so. Are we going to beat 20%? The way things are looking, probably not. Now, I can tell you 98% of the people complain about it. I always say the other 2% just don't know where they are. But if you're going to complain about it, why don't you go and help make the decision on who are going to make these decisions for you for the next 4 years?
Yeah, because it's mind-boggling to me that 180,000 people would let just 20,000 of their neighbors decide who's going to lead their community. And it's so important that in these off-year elections, you also let your voice be heard. Because when it comes to what's happening right in your neighborhood, whether or not the fire department has the resources they need, whether or not you have new jobs coming into your community, it's people like Richard and Robbie Perkins and Denise Turner. These are the people that are going to be working on these types of issues. And so, yes, if you have not seen that article I wrote, go to carolinajournal.com. It's the most recent op-ed that I have there, but I talk about the off-year elections, not only in Greensboro, but around the state as well. Richard, just a couple more questions before I let you go, man.
Yeah.
Sports tourism has become a pretty big deal for Greensboro. How do you see the city still further leveraging some of those opportunities to generate economic development?
Well, one of the reasons that I wanted to take over the Greensboro Sports Foundation, not only to get out and tell the story about the impact that sports tourism has on Greensboro and the region, but also how important it is that we keep our facilities up to par. Greensboro has a propensity of building incredible facilities, and then they sit on the sidelines and, as I say, pat themselves on the back for 20 or 30 years while these assets deteriorate. So I want to see us reinvest in our Bryan Park Soccer Complex, our Greensboro Coliseum Complex, our Aquatic Center, because we're on the map. The national map is for these facilities to be able to draw these events that bring, hundreds of thousands of hotel room nights and hundreds of millions of dollars worth of economic impact. So, facilities in real estate, as we know, a real estate decision is location, location, location. And sports tourism is facilities, facilities, facilities. So it brings a lot of attention. Anytime we can get a national event with the national television, you can't put a price tag to that. So my focus is not only do we continue investing in our facilities, but also to shift to a county and a regional effort. We need to work more on a Guilford County level with some of the great things that are being done in High Point with the Carolina Corps soccer and Megan Oglesby. But how can we look at the entire Piedmont Triad region or the Carolina Corps to bring this national attention through sports and the positivity of sports? So we're going to continue pushing that message and continue to bring some incredible events to this area with a lot of national exposure.
Richard, I really love that last piece that you just hit on. Robbie Perkins indoctrinated me into the idea of regionalism 20 years ago when I first came into business, when he, had his heart of the triad vision. And I've just been, and Don Judd, when he was at the partnership, he was a huge proponent of regionalism. He also educated and taught me a lot about the concept. And I've just been a huge proponent for regionalism ever since. And I find it too often that we let these imaginary lines in between Greensboro, Winston, and High Point, these little lines that we can't quite see, we start to really believe those are physical boundaries and we don't work together as much as we can. Now, I know some of that has started to shift and change with the advent of the Carolina Corps and the great work Lauren Hill and that team is doing. But what can we do more of? I mean, I think right now there's no more argument, in my opinion, about who's the leader of the Triad regional economy. I know over time there's been this competition between Winston and Greensboro, but to me it's pretty clear right now. Greensboro is the leader. They have generated a tremendous amount of private sector jobs. So a rising tide should lift all boats. How can all these communities begin to really, really work together, Richard, so that citizens in Forsyth County can benefit from a boom supersonic coming to Greensboro?
Yeah, well, when you're bringing 20,000 jobs to the region, 20,000 jobs to these families, they're not going to be 20,000 families that can fit into Greensboro. It's got to be it. Let me tell you, I worked when I first started in economic development. It was a true regional, or it was the Roanoke Valley of Virginia. It was 7 different jurisdictions, and they understood that the city of Roanoke was the kind of the engine, and we needed to build from that. And now Greensboro has certainly made their slip ups, being the 800-pound gorilla, saying it's our way or the highway, and that's gone. That's we understand that it's time to lower the lines, as you well say, because we've all won. Whether it's Toyota or Jet Zero or Boom Supersonic, the whole region won. Now it might be a driver in Greensboro taking kind of a lead, but we need to put that aside and we all need to collaborate together and work together. And I see that through the Carolina Corps and new leaders coming up. These young leaders think a whole lot different than old folks like me, like the Megan Oglesbys and what's going on in High Point. They're taking, interestingly enough, young females and putting them in strong leadership positions. And, somebody like Megan lowers all the boundaries. She's still a High Point person, but she gets the big picture. And I can see that through the collaboration that the economic development folks have done. So let's take advantage of that and let's all work together and let's all capitalize on it, because it's going to take the whole region to capture and take full advantage of these opportunities.
I totally agree. Even that recent announcement, the I think Food Line, their distribution operations are located on the eastern side of Greensboro, which is not only going to help the east side of Greensboro, but it's going to help the west side of Burlington. And
Exactly.
so it's not, the triad, and I think when people think about the triad or they hear the word triad, they automatically think about Greensboro, Winston-Salem, and High Point, but it's so much more expansive than that. I mean, the actual Piedmont Triad region is 13 counties. And I really believe that, up until recently, we didn't really have a clear leader. It was like, Winston could be the leader and Greensboro could be the leader. And there was this little competition going on to figure out who's going to be the leader. But I think in the last few years, it's become pretty clear that Greensboro is the leader. They are the key economic driver of the triad. And I think we should rally around everything that's happening there and support. And as I said before, a rising tide can lift all boats and all communities can benefit. Richard, here's my very last question for you. Let's imagine. I know you can't wait until election day is passed. By the way,
I'm ready.
anyone that you've ever been on a political campaign, it is very grueling. And when you're into the final hours of the night that Richard's in right now, I'm sure he's just ready for it to be over. But imagine you win this thing. But let's imagine even further because I'm someone that likes to begin with the end in mind. Imagine it's your last day in office.
Hmm.
What do you want people to say about your time on city council?
Did I move the needle? As simple as that. I mean, and that I brought people together. And those are the two things that I'm gonna work hard on amongst everything else. But I left Greensboro a better place than it was. And
Richard,
and the region, not just Greensboro, but the region, because I'm a regional guy too. And I feel like that I've had the experiences through my channels, through all the years that we've known each other. And when you get into the economic development world, you get into a lot of you get to see a lot behind closed doors and you learn from it. And I've gained a tremendous amount of knowledge and have learned a lot and still have a lot to learn. But I'm ready to pull this together and let's quit talking about it. Let's move. Let's take some action. We're talking about things that we talked about 30 years ago when I first came back. I have no more patience to be talking about it. Let's take all this hard work, all this planning, and let's execute.
Richard, thank you for joining me today, and thank you for sharing your vision with such clarity and passion. I appreciate your work, your leadership, and your friendship, and also your commitment to Greensboro's future. For those listening, if this conversation resonated with you, take a moment to learn more about Richard Beard's campaign and get involved. Local leadership matters. It shapes the schools our children attend, the roads we drive, and the opportunities that come to our neighborhoods. If you'd like to support Richard's campaign with a donation, visit his campaign page and give what you can. Every contribution helps fuel a future of growth and opportunity. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and make sure you stay tuned to WTOB because every Sunday morning, that's where you can lock in with me. But if you happen to miss me there, hopefully you're subscribed to the podcast. You can get that on YouTube, Pandora, Spotify, Apple, wherever you like to get your favorite podcasts. You can always lock in there. And until next time, y'all stay locked in.